Hello, everyone. We are back at Silver Creek Studios with another episode of Get a Load of This. I am Ryan.
And I'm Jared.
And we are going to talk a lot of shit today. I don't know what we're going to talk about. We're going to bring it back a little bit from where we've had some pretty heavy topics.
Yeah.
And it's just the factor of current events. But we're gonna slow it down. We're gonna take a little more light approach here today.
So I left work early today to come home and watch the St. Louis Cardinals' first spring training day game. So it is baseball season,
It's
and
a great time of
I
year.
have been jonesing for it.
Yeah, I wish I could have watched it. I did get the update on my phone. But the last update I saw, they were winning. They ended up losing the game, but thank God it's spring training and none of it fucking matters. So
Yep. But we're both big baseball fans, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We spend a lot of our lives around baseball between our kids and the teams we follow, and
it seems like we're more invested in our kids' teams than we are in the Cardinals. I love the St. Louis Cardinals. I'm born and bred, and it's ingrained into us here in St. Louis area at a very young age that there is no option. And so I love the Cardinals. Mm-hmm. However, I'm not entirely enthralled by the state of Major League Baseball today. I love my team. I'll root for them till the cows come home. But I almost prefer watching my kids play.
Sure.
And I enjoy going to a minor league game. You go down to Memphis, or you go down to Springfield, or other small towns with a AA or AAA team. It's a lot of fun to go to those games. A lot cheaper. The beer's cheaper, and it's just as good as baseball.
So is that what you don't like about the state of the game, is the cost of going to a major league game?
Yeah, and it's also the spectacle that it's become. You know, so I'm a Cardinal fan. Mm-hmm. I don't like Cub fans. No,
Sure.
let me rephrase that. I like Cub fans. I have friends that are Cub fans, but I don't like the Cubs. And I've always been kind of anti Wrigley Field. That is kind of a rundown. I've been to games there, and it's it's a little bit rough. You know, and they've made a lot of. I haven't been there since they did all their improvements.
Right.
But Cub loyalists were always like, "Oh, we don't have all the advertising. It's a stripped down. It's baseball like it ought to be at Wrigley Field. There's not constant advertising bombarding you on a jumbotron. Mm-hmm. There's not all the advertising plastering the outfield walls." And that I agree with. That's where I think we should go back to.
Kind of agree with that.
Yeah, when you go to a baseball game, it should be somewhat relaxing in between pitches. You're thinking. You're just like the manager, just like the pitcher, just like the batter, just like the center fielder. You're thinking about what's going to happen next. And if you've got constant annoyances going on around you, it takes away from the experience of the game. Now, there are a lot of folks that enjoy that aspect of the game, and they want to be able to take their kid to it and keep them, enticed by shiny objects and that. But, I think the game is a classic game, and it should be appreciated. And if you don't like it, if you think it's boring, well, you're not thinking hard enough. You're not paying close enough attention. And
I feel like it still mostly is. I mean, there's advertising all over the place.
You got to block out all the other shit around you, though. I think. I don't know. At Busch Stadium, it's a great experience. It is, as they say, baseball heaven, and it's a great ballpark, and we have a great team and great ownership and all that. But the noise that happens between innings and all the advertising, they could limit that a little bit.
Yeah,
I'm a fan of music, organ music, and whatever music they play over the loudspeakers. That's fine, but it's the commercialization of it all, and them trying to make a buck off of every second that they've got you captive in that ballpark. It's like, it's not bad enough that you charge me $60 for an upper deck ticket, and $30 to park outside. But then you're going to bombard me with advertising for the next 3.5 hours while I try to watch this baseball game. hey, take it easy. All right.
Hey, if you want to sign the next great Jason Hayward,
well,
you got to have the money to do it.
So maybe I am too classic as it pertains to baseball. That I, in the 50s, Stan Musial was playing baseball in the summer times, and maybe not Stan Musial, but other player. He was one of the highest paid players, but they had winter jobs. They were selling cars. Right. They were they were plumbers. I don't know. I mean, but they had other things they were doing. That it's a game, and it doesn't matter across NBA, NHL, MLB, NFL. I do think that they're a little bit overpaid. I think that the players that do deserve higher pay is the NFL, because they are, and maybe hockey, but they are sacrificing everything. I mean, they could get concussions and pretty debilitating injuries that prevent them from having other employment down the road. So maybe they deserve a little bit more. But baseball and basketball, you're playing a game. You're playing a child's game. And while you're very good at it and it's enjoyable as hell to watch, maybe $20 million is a little too steep.
But that's just it. I mean, if we're willing to pay $80 for a ticket or $150 or what,
right.
Who knows what the good ones cost. But, if you're willing to pay that money's going in somebody's pocket, and it's either going to the owner or it's going to the players. And if you don't think the players should get paid, then that just means the owner's sitting back fat.
True. Yeah.
But maybe, that means the tickets shouldn't cost that much.
Yeah. And
but people are going to games.
Brings me back to minor league baseball. You can go to a Frontier League game here in the St. Louis area, and you can get in for $8, and you can buy a $2 hot dog and a $4 beer, and have a pretty good experience and watch a great baseball game. Now, it's not major leagues, obviously, but it's still it's a competitive baseball game.
Yep. So
even cheaper than that is you can go to our kids' games and watch them.
That's true.
And that's enjoyable too.
So you have a son that's a freshman that's still playing select baseball, but he's also doing the whole high school thing. And you are coaching or not? Or you're just kind of a baseball dad? You used to coach.
I am the president of baseball operations for that club. And, so I'm the off-field, I'm the money guy, and I make...
So you're involved in some of the behind the scenes. You're just not an on-field coach.
I have hung up my cleats. I am no longer on the field, and I don't want to be there anymore. I don't know that I have a whole lot to offer these kids anymore, and plus I don't have the patience, and I can't fungo worth a shit. So,
so how do you feel about the whole select ball thing? That whole it's a boatload of drama and money, and what do you think?
It's a mess. We've kind of alluded to my feelings on how, let's just call it what it is, the pussification of America, right?
Yeah.
So select baseball is not what it was, So select soccer, select baseball, at least in the St. Louis area, whenever I was a kid, was truly select. If you sucked, you played on a recreational team, and if you were good, then you were selected to play on an elite team.
Yeah.
And nowadays that there is there's a select team for every kid, good or bad. So there's kids
I would say there is still truly select ball. It's just we've added in the bottom of the barrel select ball
but it's all called it's all called the same
costs
thing.
Us money and
and it's kind of a shame. I think that whenever every kid can say, well, I play select baseball. It's like, did you? No, you didn't. You probably didn't.
It's like the Bill Jobs inventing the iPhone. Did he really?
Yeah, Steve Jobs. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. You just need, I think everybody needs a dose of reality.
Yeah.
Is that we're all not cut out to be baseball players. We're not all cut out to be iPhone inventors. And get a grip. Everybody's got their calling. Some of it's ditch diggers. So
and just like anything else, what I've seen or found is that it's all about the money. Mm-hmm. So these organizations claim that they want to improve your kids' ability to play and appreciate the game and all this stuff. They just want to collect your check.
Right.
And of course, I'm sure deep down they do want to improve everybody in baseball, but they really are only worried about, do you have that $3 or $4 grand that it costs to play?
Yeah, a lot of these organizations are about that.
Oh, man,
and
at
that's
least.
Why, I can't say that I've eluded that through, my oldest boy and my middle son. Definitely I've fallen prey, and we've paid some money for teams that were something other than what we expected them to be. But maybe I'm delusional. I'm thinking that my kid's something greater than he is. I think I'm a realist. I've been very honest with my kids when it comes to their athletic ability, and say, yeah, you're all right. My middle son is a heck of a lot better than my older son, and he the oldest boy knows that, and he's a champion of his younger brother. But that's,
well, everybody thinks their kid is a superstar and is going to get that college scholarship, and nobody is really come to grips with reality. But I mean,
happens about junior year of that kid's high school career that you're like, yeah, maybe you should start looking at something else.
Well, what I've seen at the varsity level in with my son in high school, you see some of the what I'll call elite athletes that truly are getting the Division I scholarships, or even looked at for the draft, the major league draft, and all that. And those guys are head and shoulders above everybody else, and even they don't stand out on their college team, or they get drafted in the last round of the draft, or not at all,
Right.
And so, like, here we are, most of these parents thinking that their kid's all that, and they're nothing compared to these truly elite athletes who put their whole life into it. They practice all the time. They, their parents sacrifice everything. They sacrifice everything. They work their tail off, peak physical condition. And our kids are like, they want to pick their glove up sometime late January and start practicing for the February tryout. But, I think everybody, like you said, all the parents are kind of delusional with that reality.
Well, I mean, I still am a little bit with my middle son. I don't think he's going to be, I hope he makes a college team. I don't know that I don't think he'll get a scholarship.
Right.
He could surprise me. He's still a freshman. Who knows? He's going to get bigger. He's going to get stronger. But I'm not holding out for that.
Yeah.
I have a contingency plan for the kid. And, but it came down to, with my oldest son, that we went to a tryout for a fairly elite team, and he didn't want to go. And I was like, come on, let's give it a shot. Let's see what happens. And we went out, and as I'm talking to some of the dads, they were coming from miles around. I mean, from long distances, from southern Missouri, from southern Illinois. And they're like, he's been playing this, and he's been doing, and I'm watching these kids, and they are crushing the ball. They are flawless on the field. And I look at my kid, who's great defensively, but can't hit a curveball to save his life. Can't catch up with these fastballs these kids are throwing. And I'm like, he's not there, And so he knew it. And we didn't even have to talk about it on the car ride home. It was just like, it's not in the cards for you, buddy. You play as long as you can. And that's the best advice I have for any kid that plays baseball or any sport, is play as long as you can. As long as it's fun, continue to play it. As soon as it's not fun, stop playing it. And if you can't play for your school, well, then go play recreational ball with your friends, or go play wiffle ball, or go play cork ball, or something like that out on a park field. Yeah, you're gonna have a hell of a lot more fun doing that.
And that's the shame of it, is that about the age where you actually start getting good and playing the game for real and using all the rules and everything, is right about the age when coaches, particularly school coaches or whatever, pretty much just make the game not fun anymore.
Right.
And they just these kids want to quit. Yeah. They either don't get to play, or if they do, they get yelled at for making mistakes. Yeah. There's all this pressure, you're trying to win, state playoffs or regionals or whatever. Right. And so there's all this pressure that comes along, and you got 40, 50 kids trying out for less than 20 spots. It's all pressure, right? And they're already dealing with so much other stuff in school that, it's like you said, if you could just go play for a select team or something, but I don't even think you can. Once that school ball starts,
there's too many limitations.
Yeah, they just shut it down until from January to June, basically.
That's why you just need to, play recreational. I've said it since my kids were little. I'm like, I can't wait till they're all done with high school and in college, or out of or even done with college, and they want to play slow pitch softball or something like that, and I can go out, and I'm not saying I'm going to play with them. At one time I thought I would. Yeah. I'd be on the team with them. But now I'm looking like, I'll watch you guys. I'll be your manager. But I want them to be able to play that game, even though it's, slow pitch softball is a little different than baseball. But I want to be able to go out and have fun. And I enjoy the heck out of watching baseball. And I really like watching my kids play. And it's cheap, and the beer's cheap, and it's all good.
Yep.
But no, the Cardinals and Major League Baseball is great, and it is great to have the season back, and Do
you buy into this whole collusion thing with the owners, where they're not signing any of these free agents?
I think that in every business there is some element of collusion. If you don't think that, then you're lying to yourself. It doesn't matter if it's high finance or the oil business or baseball, and there's some element of it. So, these are smart people we're talking about here. These team owners, and I think that there's something going on there.
I don't know if I do. I don't know if depends on what you want to say. A small element of collusion, maybe. These owners all get together for owners meetings and certainly are talking, aside from that. But I don't know that they have a plan of, let's not sign any of these guys. Let's all wait until February 20th or whatever. And then this is what we'll get them for. Right. Because there have been teams that have been signing some guys and they would screw it all up if there was a plan.
Right.
But it does seem like a relatively coordinated effort to basically to spend less and spend wisely, and to me, that's not collusion. That's just good business. They need to get rid of these long 7-8 year contracts for $200 million and rein it in.
Call it what it is. If it's collusion or if it's good business, I agree that they're, I don't blame them.
Yeah. I don't blame them at all.
I'm pro business. I think that if you can find a deal and the other guys is, willing to agree to that deal, then you should take advantage of it.
But I think the players should get what they can, as much as they can. Yeah. But I think when you're 32 and you want an 8-year contract, you're fooling yourself and trying to fool your team. Well, because that's not going to pan out.
No,
right?
Well, let's look at Albert Pujols. Were the California Angels, or what are they called, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, were they foolish for signing him to that long of a contract for that amount of money?
Yes.
To answer your question. Yeah, it's a simple answer. Anybody that's paying the least bit of attention knows that was a foolish contract.
Right.
And John Mozeliak and the St. Louis Cardinals look like geniuses in hindsight.
But they weren't that far behind. They offered
they offered a lot of money. Contract. They almost got stuck with the lemon that is. It's not a lemon. He's setting records. He's in the twilight of his career. Yeah. It's a great time to be an Albert Pujols fan. I'm an Albert Pujols fan. I like him. I'm not bitter.
I was pretty bitter.
Well, at first I was, but now it's like he's a great baseball player.
Now that he sucks, I'm not bitter.
Well, maybe
if he was killing it out in California, we'd be bitter.
But we all knew. I think anybody in the right mind knew that it was going to happen. He was going to taper off.
And he was trending downward anyway before he left.
So it shouldn't be any surprise. But,
no.
So I don't know. Is that the way the business is going? Is that that they're just learning from the mistakes of those who came before them and saying, "Hey, we're not going to get suckered into this kind of crap. We're going to do 4 and 5 year contracts tops, and if you're over 32, you're going to get 2 and 3 year contracts, maybe."
Yeah,
and that's just good business, right? I mean, anybody can see that, I think, but
except the players, they want the long-term contracts for the most amount of money, and their agents.
They're going to lose.
Well, it looks like this year, at least, that's the direction it's going. Now, next year, there's talk of all this huge dollars being spent on younger guys. That's the issue.
When's the last time we had a strike in baseball? Was that like 1993 or 4?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. 4. So, I mean, we're due. It's been 24 years since we've had a strike, and I don't know what the average length between player strikes is, but it wouldn't surprise. I'm not predicting it, but if it happened, it wouldn't shock me one bit.
Yeah,
that the players said, you know what, unless we get a collective bargaining agreement that allows for us to be somehow benefited than we're out.
When Harper and Machado and Kershaw come back on the market next year, they're all going to get ridiculous contracts. I think the pendulum will swing the other way again, and there'll be a lot of dollars being spent on.
But those guys are always going to get it, like Judge and Giancarlo Stanton, and those guys are always going to get the big. But that's not who people are bickering about, though, right? It's the mid-level players that are the problematic guys right now, right? So, no doubt.
I just think when teams are starting to spend money on the marquee guys next year, they're going to also spend it on, because there's going to be teams that miss out on those guys,
right?
Obviously. And so if you don't sign Harper or Machado, you're going to be sitting there with a bunch of money that you were going to spend on them, and instead you're going to go get the next guy who might not be worth it, but you're going to overpay to get him. I think next year it'll sort of balance out what's going on this year, but maybe not. Maybe it'll. I kind of hope it doesn't, because I think they need to spend less, or at least shorter term, like 3-4 years. That's fine. If you even have to quote overpay for the first couple of years or something, as long as you're not stuck with this long-term albatross. But
the bottom line is the fans are still going to get screwed.
I guess they keep coming out in St. Louis.
Yeah, I mean, St. Louis. I mean, like I said, we're fortunate, and you're usually going to see a good product on the field, and you're going to, for the most part, get your money's worth. But I don't know what the ticket prices are in Cleveland.
Right.
But they're getting screwed, and they have to try to remain competitive with the rest of the Major League Baseball market.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's hard in Kansas City, even though they just won the championship 2 years ago. I don't know what their attendance numbers are going to look like this year, but I imagine they're going to be down. They're going to be similar to what they were about 5 years ago when there was nobody paying attention to the Royals.
Well, now they're doing, a lot of teams are doing this dynamic pricing where you pay less for the weekday games against, the Padres, and you pay more for the weekend games against the Cubs, which I kind of like that. I definitely like the paying less for the crappier games.
Right.
But when you're also paying more for the premium games, I don't really like that. I mean, maybe that's just me being selfish. I'd like to have a set price that I know what it costs to go to a game. But and if a team happens to be getting better and they decide they're going to charge more for that, you're like, no, thanks. But it isn't a bad idea, I guess, to have.
No, it's not horrible. I mean, and that's good business, right?
And that's, the free market too. You're not going to charge as much for a crappy Tuesday night game.
Well, if tickets aren't getting bought, they're going to bring the price down. So, it's like, are you going to charge? It's why theaters charge less for a matinee ticket, right? It's the same principle. Sure. So you can't fault them for that. I don't have a problem with the premium pricing or the tiered. Yeah. What do they call it?
Dynamic ticket pricing.
It's just, I don't know. I think I am a traditionalist when it comes to the sport. I think that it should be about the game and not about the distractions. When my kids were little, and I would take them to a game, and they knew that the kids club or whatever the hell it was, the where the playground is, and, and Fredbird hangs out and all that shit, that they always wanted to go out there. I was like, no, we'll go out there either after the game, or they had to wait till at least the seventh inning. Mm-hmm. It's like, we're here to watch a baseball game. We are not here to play on a playground. Mm-hmm. We paid a lot of money for these tickets, and you're here to watch a game. And by the way, here's your scorecard. Did you get that last play? And I will say, my oldest boy, I was much more stringent with, but he knows how to keep score on a scorecard, and the middle one's pretty good. The youngest one, I got to work on him a little bit, but no, I mean, I don't know. I'm just a traditionalist when it comes to the game, and I think that you should be super focused on what's going on the field, and not so much what's going on the jumbotron.
Oh yeah, definitely. Have you had to buy any equipment lately? Is your younger son kind of past that? He's got the bat that he's going to use, the glove that he's going to use.
Yeah, well, he probably could use a new glove. He we bought him a nice Mizuno a couple years ago, but he's already he's beat it up pretty good, and the palm of it's pretty wore out. So he's probably due. Got a birthday coming up. We'll see what happens. I don't know. But as far as bats, bats were challenging whenever our kids were playing together.
Right.
It was they were changing
whole BB
rules,
core
and
thing.
it was nuts. And they're expensive as hell, and you got to, every year it seems like you got to change. Luckily we're good in that regard, I think, and
I don't think they've changed the high school regulation.
Yeah, the rules.
But I do think at the younger age, whatever the last, was it USSSA standard? I think that there's already been a change to that. So you've had to get new bats again for the USSSA at the younger age. We don't have to worry about that. But
it pissed me off at the time because, they don't realize how expensive, maybe they do realize how expensive, maybe they're all, maybe they're colluding to get people to buy bats,
Oh, sure.
But, it's part of the game. It's a hell of a lot better than hockey. I could be buying goalie pads,
Right. Hockey and football, man, that equipment is crazy. Yeah. I remember my son was on a select team a couple years ago that he had a $100 glove. It was a Rawlings Gold Glove series, right at $100, which, I know is not the best or anything. Line, no, but it's not a crappy glove at all. And so they had the whole team together. This was kind of early in the formation of the team and before the season started, and they were talking about equipment, and, expecting everybody to have quality level equipment. And they called out my son and his glove and said, like this here, this is probably like the cheapest glove you could get.
No shit.
Don't get anything cheaper than this. And I'm like, fuck you. That was not cheap. But they were serious. Like they fully expected you to spend the $200, $250, $300 gloves. Yeah. And it was like, well, if you have to, you can get the $100 glove.
So that's a great point. So I have, and maybe it's to my kids' detriment, but my kids playing select baseball, they've never had, as far as equipment goes. Here's what I will afford them with: batting gloves, a fielding glove, a helmet. That's about it.
You don't get them a bat? You get them
a bat. Yeah, bat. But no compression sleeves.
Oh, yeah, right.
No armor protection for their left elbow. No, I don't know, whatever other bullshit that has come along.
So I've always been in agreement with you, but this past season, we did, like, for his birthday or whatever, we went ahead and got him the elbow guard and the compression sleeve.
He's getting bigger too, and so he got,
and they're throwing harder.
Right. So no, I agree with that to an extent, especially if he's, he tends to lean into a pitch, and that's fine. But the at the younger ages, when these kids show up and they have every piece of armor, they look like fucking Barry Bonds out there at age 9. It's like, come on, get over yourself. The kid doesn't need that stuff. It's not making him a better baseball player. It's, if anything, it's making him worse. It's limiting his movement.
Yeah. The only thing I would argue, maybe not at that younger age like that, but it can give you some confidence. So if you're a little worried about getting hit by that inside fastball, and you put that elbow guard on, you're not so worried. You can go up there swinging, and man, baseball is all about confidence, right? So when you can go in there sure of yourself, it does help. But I agree. When you're 9 and you're trying to put this men's size elbow guard on,
it takes you 10 minutes to get ready to go up to the plate because you got to put all his equipment on. It's silly.
But you look cool.
Yeah, you do look cool, I suppose. But here's another thing. There has been, and maybe it's been talked about on other shows, and maybe I just don't pay enough attention to these shows, but an influx of jaw guards, if you want to call them that, in Major League Baseball. I think it started, I don't want to say that Jason Hayward was the first one to wear one when he was with the Cubs.
Sure. He way back with the Braves.
But when he was with the Braves, he still wore it then. So obviously, maybe I don't know the history of Hayward, but
I think most of those guys, they got hit. Yeah, at some point.
But now it seems not everybody, but there are more and more Major League Baseball players wearing that extra extension on their helmet.
Stanton is the other obvious one. I mean, he got drilled.
Well, I think doesn't Molina wear one now too?
He might. I know Colton Wong does, and I don't think he's ever got hit. Yeah, so. But
it's just it seems like there's been
proactive, I guess.
Well, sure, I guess, but it's like I remember, and you remember too,
when I was your age,
when Ozzie Smith was he was one of the last players in Major League Baseball. I'm sure there was others that were right around the same time, but that didn't have ear flaps on his helmet. And that was regulation change. If you started playing before 1979 or 1980, whatever year it was, you didn't have to wear ear flaps. And so when I was growing up in the 80s, there was a handful. There was Keith Hernandez, there was Ozzie Smith, there was these guys that didn't have to wear flaps. And now it seems like we're almost getting full face helmets.
Might as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, at what point are they just going to go out there wearing a cocoon, wrapped in Charmin to play baseball? Again, I'm a traditionalist, so I
am too.
I look
but
at
I'm
the
okay
old
with
videos.
the flap.
Yeah.
Because Stanton still looks like his face is fucked up. So
Yeah.
I'm like,
I got no problem with ear flaps. It's just that extension. It's just off-putting. I think it's a little weird to look at. I guess I'll get used to it, but just like I did ear flaps.
Well, it's like the old hockey masks didn't have a mask at all. It was just a helmet. Those guys take a puck to the face. And
goalie masks didn't wear masks.
Right.
In the early 70s or late 60s, they were wearing the horror masks, the traditional hockey mask, right? But not far before that, they were wearing nothing at all.
Which is insane
and just taking
to think
pucks
about.
to the face.
I don't. Yeah, that just
crazy.
boggles my mind.
So clearly, we're not a Canadian podcast because they're like, "Well, that's no big deal, eh?"
Yeah.
No, now we're getting into a whole other topic of sports equipment and how expensive it is. But no, there is. I don't know. There's a change in the way that we can talk about another one, concussion protocol, and how those things are treated nowadays. And it's, I don't know. I guess it's important to protect our players, especially the amount of money that the owners are putting into them.
Hey, you want to put armed security guards in their hallways? You might as well put a helmet on them.
Yeah, put an extra piece of plastic on a $1 million baseball player's face. Sure, why not?
Yeah. Well, on that note, let's wrap up this episode. I think we're right there. So
that's a shame.
This has been another episode of Get a Load of This.
Yeah, check us out on Twitter at Load This Podcast, and we'll catch you next time.
All right. See ya.